Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to It's Rainmaking Time. This is Kim Greenhouse. It is my great pleasure to have surreal landscape artist John Oberdorf join us today. He's a dear friend of mine. He's an associate of mine. He is a phenomenal artist who brings landscapes to life like I have never seen. Literally, you go into his paintings. You actually experience that you're there. Welcome, my dear friend, John Oberdorf, to It's Rainmaking Time. Good day.
Hi, Kim.
I'm so excited to have you on the show. It's been, 6 years?
Well, it's been quite a while. I'm not that great a judge of time, but it's been quite a while, yeah. It's nice to be with you.
I remember the last time we had you on the show, we were talking with the giclée artist, the man who invented giclées.
I think that's right.
And time has flown.
It has.
It's now 2010. And I really want to introduce you and your work to the public. You have a background early on as a draftsman and sculptor. You moved into painting. You've done illustrations for magazines, children's magazines. You've done cartoons. And you've also done work for Omni, Twilight Zone, and Ace Books. You did one of their covers. Talk to us about the earlier part of your work and what you're doing now and what you see that you're going to be moving into as an artist.
Well, I've never necessarily felt that one had to automatically change their style every few years, but you do have a natural tendency to discover new things, and different things interest you as you go along. You can return to the past also. We don't have to totally abandon where we've come from visually as artists. I started out mostly doing illustration work. I was interested in what we call sword and sorcery illustration at one time. People like Frank Frazetta fascinated me, and I did a little bit of that type of work. That entailed using the human form along with background landscape. After a while, when I started moving mostly into my own kind of surreal approach, I found that the landscapes were meaning more to me than the figures that I put into them. I was always intrigued by background landscapes in Frazetta's work and others, and painters like N.C. Wyeth and folks like that. So I learned a lot along the way, but I started doing my own work, and I favored the traditional approach to painting in oils. And I still do that to this day, although sometimes I'll use an acrylic undercoat like a wash, and I'll paint through that with oil. For the last few years, I've been concentrating on oil paintings and landscapes. For the last 5 years, I've been concentrating on landscapes in Oregon, where I happen to be, mostly for commercial reasons because people like landscapes, but I've always felt that one could never really compromise themselves as an artist by doing a landscape. You learn too much by doing it, and it really kind of opened up my palette and has affected in a positive way my more surreal landscape paintings. I say surreal in that they're concocted from my own mind, and I try to make them as real and bring them into as real a state as possible.
They're deep, they're rich, they're otherworldly. You sense a presence when you look at them, and they invite you into a world of imagination. Very, very different than some of the work you're doing right now.
In a number of ways it is, but I can't help but put a little bit of my surreal tendencies into some of the landscapes. I found that in some of my surreal work I was painting figures into the rocks and that sort of thing, kind of an archaeological approach, petroglyphs or whatever, and I found some of them were showing up naturally in the Oregon landscapes as well. People could find them, so I was just doing it without even thinking about it. I guess you could never really escape who you really are.
Do you think that what makes art accessible to people is receptivity? What do you think makes people receptive to a piece of art?
I think people have a natural interest in art. It's a symbol of our civilization. Civilizations are kind of, in a sense, judged by their art. And when we say that a civilization had a decline, very often it's seen in a decline in their arts, which is interesting because in our world today, in a bad economy, art is very often the first thing to go in terms of
absolutely
sales because it's not considered a necessity. Necessity is a relative thing. I think psychologically it's a great necessity. But things have value because people think they have value. You know, we give value to them. And I think people have a natural inclination toward art. They like to beautify their immediate environment where they live. They like to see things that interest them. They like things that absorb the mind, open up new worlds to them, allow them to entertain possibilities. That's what I like to call it. That's true not only of art, but I think of any area of intellectual endeavor. People need to entertain possibilities, because when we're not, we're standing still.
Don't you think that one of the things that's changed a lot since we did a show last in 2004 is that the canvas upon which an artist communicates can now be on more things, on cups, on covers, presentations, computer screens, all kinds of products that we use every day. And so an artist like yourself, who brings gorgeous, beautiful images to life, has a canvas that's a lot bigger and broader than that which simply goes in a gallery.
Well, that's true. There are more ways to show your work now, more ways to create imagery. There are people that are out there creating a lot of computer art. In fact, that's almost totally what they seem to be doing in Hollywood now. Witness the new movies like Avatar and things like that. They're creating some very fascinating imagery for people. So I think the table has expanded in terms of how art is presented and what the artist can do.
Therefore, as an artist who is in commerce, do you think that the marketplace has constricted artists, or do you think that the marketplace is opening up for artists beyond galleries?
Well, we have to be creative in terms of entrepreneurship, and unfortunately for artists, they tend to be poorer entrepreneurs, a lot of them. And I understand that. I tend to be that way, how to market your own work. That's a big problem for a lot of artists. So while there are more opportunities that may be out there, I think sometimes artists have trouble understanding how to access them. I know in my case sometimes that's been true. Things have changed. And again, back to Hollywood now, you're not using paintings as much as you're using computer work. Now, a number of artists have switched to that. Not all of us are well-trained in computers. I'm still kind of a troglodyte in that regard. I'm still rubbing sticks together to make fire.
You're funny.
I'm not a computer guy.
You don't have to be a computer guy. I mean, this is where I think that artists really need more confidence. Painters don't have to go away, nor do books. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Nor do actual real books that you touch.
Oh, absolutely not. I'm glad you mentioned books, because I really think that books are important, the tactile nature of having something in your hand to read from. It's not a vice to collect books. I've collected a lot of books over the years. I have a very funky anthropological library that I've collected over the years of 100-plus-year-old archaeology books and things like that, where interesting things are talked about that they don't talk about anymore. And it's important to have these things. You're not going to read all that you need to just off of a computer. And I'm afraid, while it has opened up new horizons, you have information at your fingertips, a lot of people seem to be living their lives on a computer. And that could, in some ways, be, I think, a danger.
I do, too. Do you think that your interest in ancient civilizations and ancient works is impacting the way you live today?
It certainly impacts the way I think about the world, so I guess it impacts the way I live. Am I kind of an ancient at heart? I don't know. Maybe I am. Still driving the ox cart.
There's no Social Security or medical insurance after 100 or something. I think they have a totally different policy. It's called the afterlife.
Well, that's right.
There you go.
Yeah, retirement is falling face forward with a brush in your hand.
So what's on the horizon for you? I understand you're working on a new book.
Well, I'm getting ideas together, or paintings together, that I think can be reproduced and put into visual format. And there's other work that I've done in the past, collecting information on a potential book regarding the human past, and having hopefully continuing an association with somebody I haven't talked to for a while, that we're going to do a book together regarding that. I haven't had a chance to follow through with it, but I've collected a lot of information and hope someday to put that together.